Well, good morning. Thanks for being here. And I recognize you both, which is awesome. Can you guys hear me okay? What a great chat this morning. You know, I always hope you can. Awesome. Thanks so much. So, yeah, we're talking about the snow, and I know they predicted so much for everybody, but then it was kind of some people got some people got a lot, and some people were in the middle. So, yeah, and so it is beautiful out where I am. Hopefully, it is there too. So awesome. And I'm glad they have so many students that I know, either from last semester or previous years at eAchieve. And I actually have quite a few students that I had at face-to-face school. So that is fun. And of course, I would have had them back in the middle school years. So lots of fun. I hope your semester one finished out well. And I hope that you are excited for semester two, and life skills is a great class. So I'm guessing that you are looking forward to this class because you guys are all in high school, and I know you're looking forward to being out on your own and you want to be successful. And this class covers so many topics to help you do that. So if you use the textbooks and do the reading and go through the support materials in each of the lessons each week, I will tell you, you will be so much more prepared to enter adulthood even than I was. So I wish I would have had a class like this in so many ways. So if you've looked ahead, the topics are great. Do I have any questions starting out? I would love to answer if you have any questions from the get-go. I know both of you guys have had me before, so you're probably used to me, and I know you've been at eAchieve, so no questions? So we'll get going. So this week we're going to talk about goals, which is a great way to start the semester, and it's a great way to start anything. Some people start goals at the new year. Lots of people have new goals at natural breaking points, like a new school year or a new semester or a new job or a new location, all of those kinds of things. And so that'll be our topic this week. Before we get into that, I do want to just give a little start here about me as your teacher. Hopefully you watched that video that I put together that gives you some background. I just love every aspect of family and consumer sciences. So everything that we teach, that we teachers in this field teach are really interests of mine. I have continued to learn about each of these things as I've gotten older. None of these things do you really learn and you're done and you're good. You know, like you've got addition, you can use that your whole life. You've got that. You never really need to learn more about it. All of these things related to people and nutrition and our relationships, all of these things you can learn more and more throughout your year, I think, or throughout your life. And I think that's part of why I like it so much too. So we'll go through some of these. And my name is Ms. Groff. So sometimes people ask me how to pronounce that. So I just want to make sure that you know. I answer to it anyway. If somebody says Graff, it's no big deal, but we just say it Groff. So a few things that you should know that I do want to clarify going into here is that last week you had that practice assignment, and many people did that perfectly, following the directions. There are a few people that submitted in a format, and I should say hi, Loki. I don't know who all's here now. Glad that you guys are all here today. Great. Hi, Catherine. Hi, I had Loki before, so I know him too. So I really am going to be a stickler. Last semester, I kind of let a few people went through the semester, and you know, they just wouldn't do it the way that I've requested it done. And then toward the end of last semester, I thought, you know, I'm really going to get back on being a stickler on that. Everything needs to go through Safe Assign. It needs to load into my computer efficiently, and that is the best way to do that. So if you do your work on whatever kind of format, if you do it on Google slides or Google Docs or whatever it is, just save it on as a PDF and then attach as a download. So you'll often have images, but you'll most definitely have typing every single week. So be sure to save it as a PDF and attach as a download. If you're not clear on that, make sure that you reach out to me. I also want to say that I know for a fact that the people who attend e-sessions especially, and even the ones that watch if they have a scheduling conflict of some sort, do much better in classes. So I would very much suggest that you do that. Sometimes students get ahead, or I can tell students are just trying to get it done. And I can always tell if they have not gone through the textbook or they have not gone through the materials. And I always talk about the assessment in every e-session, so that's really helpful. Another good tip is just to copy and paste the questions that are in the assignment directions right onto your Google Doc to make sure that you're answering every single one of them. And some people delete them as they answer, and some people just leave them. So make sure that, I think that's a very helpful way. I will say that a few people will treat that as it's part of their answers, and it makes their work look bigger, and they have very little substance to their answers. That never tricks me. So make sure that you're doing a good job on a complete answer if you copy and paste as well. Be sure to look at the announcements every week that come out. I'm always unclear on this. Do you guys get an email on Monday mornings when those post? I do them beforehand, and I schedule them to come out. Does it send you an email? I know I can check that if I post immediately. Did you get an email from me? Okay, awesome. So a few people have, well, actually at face-to-face tried to tell me that they haven't come through, and I just want to say, not a chance. Okay, thank you. Look at those. If there's anything you need to know for the week, I'll put it in there. I copy and paste the week's pace chart on there, so that's clear. For instance, like, I don't know what I have this week. If there's just anything that you need to know extra, I'll put it in there. And I tell you our topic. Okay, so I don't know why. So check your spam, or check to make sure that's coming through from Blackboard. Abby, I would make sure that you check that. All right, and then I will say another thing to know is, thank you, make sure that you don't submit a blank. So I had a number of people do this last semester, and that's called ghosting at eAchieve. And when you submit and there's nothing attached, so be real careful of that. I usually think it's an error, but if it's a pattern, students can get in trouble for that because it violates the academic honesty policy. So just make sure you've got that attached properly as you do. And then if you have anything that comes up, or if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to me. So if you email me, I'm really good at emailing them. I should say and let you know that this year I'm teaching afternoons over at the middle school here in Waukesha, where I've been before. So if you need something urgently, or if you email me in, I guess after this class, really after like 11:15 or 11 o'clock, I very likely won't get your email right away, and I will still meet that 24-hour response to your email, but know that you won't be able to reach me like immediately there. Yeah, so go through that. That's a good point, Loki. So are you working on an iPad, or do you have a laptop? You've got an iPad. So some students find it easier to go through. Are you using the Blackboard app, or are you in the browser? And I know a lot of people have questions with this. And Safari. Okay, so sometimes with the iPad, it can be glitchy. In the Student Resource Center, and even on my navigation bar in all the classes, there are some videos for hints on that, because a lot of students have struggled. I know one student that, I've known a number of students that literally, if they have a different computer at their home available, they work on their iPad, but then when they need to submit the work, they go into like a desktop or somebody's laptop, and then they sign into Google and access their drive and attach through Blackboard there. So if you can do that, that might be your best tip. But reach out to help if you're still struggling that. Do not go through the whole semester fighting with that. Reach out to Ms. Jurish, or if you've got an advisor, reach out to that. I know a lot of students have struggled with that, and technology struggles are really frustrating. So try to get answers and support on that so that you're not wasting time either. I never want to waste time with a technology issue. Thank you for bringing that up. I know a lot of people have that issue. Okay, so I'm going to go, actually, I think I told you, so we talk about families in here, this kind of thing. So I raised 4 adult children, and I can't remember now if I told you in my video, this little guy, Mason, he turns 4 on Thursday, but I've actually had him full time since he's been 6 months old. So I don't share that with everybody, but I share it with my students because we get to know each other this semester, and you guys share stuff with me. So I am a grandparent family, which I never expected to be. I love it, but that's unexpected. So like when we get to certain chapters, I might mention something about that, and I just want to make sure that you know. So we do talk about families in here. Families and relationships are so complex, and lots of times life doesn't turn out like we had planned or we had hoped. But learning some skills help us to cope better and help us to make the most of it. So I'm sure every one of you have different family things that are a little bit different than you expected to. So. Right, so let's talk about your kid is trying to land. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I went through course information. One thing that you need to know, we're going to talk about today, adaptive release. Semester 2 students usually are a little more familiar with this than semester 1. The grading and pace charts are on your navigation buttons on the left. And again, all of you have been here last semester, right? Nobody's brand new. Am I right about that? We're going to go through SMART goals, and then we'll talk about the summative. So there are some glitchy things. You're new, Abby? Okay, I thought you were since last year. Okay, so you guys are new, but I think you're in second semester, right? You're new this year, but you're not new totally. Am I right about that? Okay, awesome, because I recognize you guys. New last year. All right, so you know the ropes a little bit here. So again, that communication thing, if you're ever wondering anything, I can usually give you a quick answer and steer you in the right direction and help. And I love to do that. So that just helps me to get you to know you guys better and have more of that connection. And then, so this is what we'll go through here today. And so I think you guys are probably familiar with adaptive release. It means when you sometimes, a couple of times last semester and in years past, students have said, I don't see a summative, I can't find the summative, or I did all my work. And it will turn out that they did quizzes and maybe they didn't pass a quiz, so the summative never showed up. And so they didn't check their grade on the quiz. Or they may not have done the quiz and they can't find the summative. There are summatives every single week, and those are on the PACE chart. And I don't think this class has a week that goes without. I know I have a couple of other classes that 2 weeks run together, and there might not be a summative on 1 week out of the semester, but I believe this class every single week has a summative. So make sure that you are looking at that and know that if you can't find the summative, you may not have passed the quiz. And quizzes are unlimited tries. So use the textbook with it. That's nothing wrong with that. That's one of your resources. Welcome to the 21st century where you have things at your fingertips. So go ahead and use those and do that. Know that you've got a summative. So follow those PACE charts. Blue are the formatives. That means they're really helpful for you on the summative, that's the information that you will synthesize and analyze and use to complete your summative, but they don't count toward your grade. However, like I said, they will open up the summative assessment for you. And then the summatives are in red. So those are the ones that count for your grade. So when I do your 4-week report, your progress report, which is only 2 weeks from Friday, that comes up very quickly. What I will use for that will be those summatives that are in red. So don't skip the blue, because those help people do a much better job on their summatives. Okay, any questions so far on anything? Okay, good. And so if you need to resubmit something, there's a whole policy on this. I will tell you that I'm actually a little more lenient on this. If somebody looks at my feedback on the summatives, and by the way, look at those. I literally write feedback for every single student when you turn in a summative. If you get an approaching or an incomplete or an NEE, absolutely, it tells you what to do differently. Proficient, sometimes I'll tell you what you could do to get to the advanced grade, but oftentimes I'll tell you what you did well. So if you're going for those high grades, make sure that you're looking at those and you can resubmit. You're likely to need to email me, however, to have me open up another attempt. So honestly, I'm a little more lenient. There's this whole policy, and actually, if you just say to me, I read through your feedback, I'd like to resubmit my summative, and you're clear about which one it is, I'll just go in there and open up another attempt for you, okay? So be sure to do that. I just had a student reach out to me that was disappointed with their semester 1 grade. And honestly, I was like, if you were going for that higher grade, you should have resubmitted. I have had students that resubmitted when they got a proficient or an approaching and they wanted to go for a proficient or an advanced. They consistently would look at my feedback and resubmit. So feel free to do that. That's a benefit here at eAchieve. And actually, the whole school district of Waukesha, I think it's underused. So know that you can do that. Teachers love that. Okay, and of course you should too. Next slide here. And I did want to tell you one thing too, before we get into this goals, just so you can have your scheduling. Usually my life skills e-sessions run about 35 to 40 minutes. I do have a couple of topics that run almost an hour, just because they're more information. But you can normally plan on about 35 to 40 minutes for our e-sessions, okay? So today would have been shorter, except we had all of our how the class works stuff to go. All right, goals. So how many of you set goals either in the new year or at semester 2? Anybody want to share out some goals that you made with your fresh start to the year or the semester? Anybody willing? I'll share one for me. I'm working on organization. No need for goals. I'm not going to buy that. And I actually happen to know you. I hope you're convinced otherwise today, Loki. So thank you for throwing that out there. I'm working on organization. I'm usually, I love that, Abby. That's awesome. That's a great goal. I am normally pretty organized, but right now I have my workspace. I have so many things from 2 schools and the changing of semesters. I need to get organized. Okay, that is actually, I like that statement much better, Loki. So we're going to work on that this term. Or this week, we're going to work on goals. We're going to talk about why they're so important, and you will have goals by the end of the week. I love that. That is so good. Yeah, I love that. A lot of people do that, and it helps them be more successful. I love that. We're going to do a little mini version of that this week. So as it says here, studies, oh, that's awesome. So everybody can use it, no matter who. Actually, a lot of people that are very successful have life coaches to help them maintain and to do well. So it's great, and we can help each other that way as well. So when they show, we look at the research behind goals, studies show that people who set goals and accomplish them are more successful than people who don't set goals. So it's kind of like they know what they're after. So if you look at Abby, her goal is to graduate a year early. If she doesn't have benchmarks along the way, things that she needs to accomplish, she would never be able to graduate a year early. So she needs to know how many classes she needs to graduate, and then she needs to work on how many she's going to take each semester, and then she has to pass them, and she has to come up with a plan. So I did that in college too. I started out at Madison for a semester, and I transferred to UW Stout. Madison needed 120 credits to graduate. Stout needed 135. So I was already in the hole. And then some of my classes didn't transfer. And so I had to really work hard. I had to take one summer class 1 year to make up for it. And I had to take some heavy semesters, kind of like Abby there. And so if I wouldn't have done that, I would have had to pay for at least another semester of college, and I would have graduated in December when I wanted to graduate in May. So these are really important things to think about. And every goal is individual. Everybody has different goals. Like some of you are just fine graduating with your class. That would never be a goal for you. And that's totally valid. So it's all individual. And when you write out lists, so see, you do have goals. Awesome. I love that. Oh, I didn't know you had that, Abby. Wow. So my grandson Mason, he has chronic pulmonary disease. So he's got a little bit of a lung thing too. Cystic fibrosis, I know, is different. So yeah, so you got the same thing. So awesome. So when you write down a goal and you're able to cross it off, there's such a good feeling. Do any of you write down even simple things like the weekend? Mason was gone to the other side of the family for the weekend, so I had a whole list of things that I wanted to accomplish while he was gone. I work extra hard while he's gone. Any of you do that? Do you have a goal? Of course, your PACE chart is a set of goals. So in every class, are you using those check marks where you can mark that they're done? Do you know about that? Do y'all know how to do that? Electronically, you can mark everything when you've done it, and then you can see what things you've done. You guys are silent. Do you know about that? You can go into that PACE chart and you can actually mark off the things as you do them. So if you don't know about that, that's a great feeling. I love it when I've crossed everything off for the week. Okay, yeah, the PACE chart is super important to keep you on track. If you use that check off thing, it just is. There's something about it that makes you feel good about it. So goals help us to stay on track. They help us to see our progress on the things that we want to accomplish. So if we don't have a goal, like you guys all have the goal to graduate. So if you didn't know what classes you needed, or that you need to pass them, or if you're wanting your GPA higher and you're not tracking your my grades, all of those things, how do you reach your goal, right? Yeah, that's part of the benefit of eAchieve, Loki, is that you're able to do that. So totally you have that freedom. Yeah, so we're going to work on writing down goals so that we can look at them. And then it gives us standards as well. So these are some reasons when people who research goals and study them, these are the things that they've found. So here's a saying about goals. So what do you think about this? What do you think this is true? Yeah, exactly right. You do. I love it too, even as a teacher. So it's awesome. Is this your first year, Loki, at eAchieve? Did you switch with all the stuff going on? A lot of students have. I recognize so many students that I've had before. Awesome. Yours too, Abby, yeah. So that's been pretty fun for me to see how many students I know and how well you guys are doing. Yeah, I get that. Lots of families have made that choice. Oh, I get that. I get that. Now you're both old. Yeah. Love that. That's awesome. great. So people with clear written goals accomplish far more in a shorter period of time than people without them could ever imagine. So this is kind of like if you didn't ever think about goals or writing them down or the types of goals, you might be one of these people that doesn't accomplish too much. Why do you think people with clear written goals accomplish more and they can do it faster? Why do you think they might? This is really what the researchers found. People who write them out. It is a good reminder. I love that word that you chose. Great reminder. You look at it. Yes, you want to get it done. You remember that that's a goal of yours. Exactly right, Abby. They really do. They do tend to work harder. And so there's something about having that goal and being able to reach it, kind of like a runner, right? If there wasn't a finish line, they wouldn't know where they were going. They couldn't see the end, and it would be a whole different race, right? They wouldn't follow a course. So when they're doing that, they have those markers. They can see the mile markers. They know they're getting closer to the finish line, and they can push through. And so it's a great illustration of how goals work, really. So this week you're going to focus on SMART goals. How many have heard of a SMART goal? I know lots of you, you have. Awesome. I figured you have because I know that we worked on that at our school. Yeah, awesome. I like how you got your hand up in this class. All right, so you're going to learn about them more. SMART is an acronym. So that means that each one of the letters stands for something about the goal. Yeah, you're exactly right. They really have drilled SMART goals at Waukesha here. And the reason being, without every element, somebody might not be successful. Yeah. And so we're going to study them this week. And so as we go through here, here's what they mean. Sometimes people say be smart even. So B means the bold. So think of a goal that's actually a little bit more than you thought you could accomplish, something that will make you push to get it, right? So it could be something like running a marathon, right? So I like to run, but a marathon, oh my goodness. I have, any of you runners? I have my best friend from high school. We used to have what they called a par course, and we had to go from here to there. And we did not take it seriously. We had more fun than anything. And she ran the Boston Marathon. And I messaged her because I hadn't heard from her for a few years. And I messaged her and I said, "Are you kidding me? We couldn't do the par course and you ran the Boston Marathon." So yeah, that does sound like it would. So that was her goal. So one of my goals is to save my knees. So I don't have that marathon, but this is a good example here with running. And then be specific. Which one are you going to? Is it the Boston Marathon, or is it going to be a local marathon here? So be specific about which goal, and then make it measurable. So in what time frame are you going to do it, right? Are you going to run it in a certain amount of time? Under 2 hours? I don't know about a marathon in 2 hours. So yeah, that would hurt. So so you would say, I want to run it in under 2 hours, but then is that realistic? So 2 hours might not be realistic. That's the R there. And then A, action oriented. So what are you going to do? You're not just going to wake up one day and head down to the marathon and run it, right? You're going to have some action in between. How are you going to get to that goal? What are you going to do to get to it? And then time bound. So then this is a part that students continuously miss when they do their summative. They will have great goals. It'll be a bold goal. It'll be specific. They will have they're going to measure it, right? They're going to talk about what action they're going to take. It'll be realistic, and then they won't have a deadline. So this time bound is really the deadline part. So otherwise, you would never reach your goal if you don't have a deadline, right? So like going back to Abby's example, wanting to graduate a year early, she has a deadline with that. So if she said she wanted to graduate early, what she wants to have all of her work turned in, by the Monday, instead of Friday. So that would not be right. That would still be early, but not really, right? And so there are two types of goals. There are long-term goals, and these can take months or years. So it could be like this semester could be a goal, or it can be like Abby's graduation goal, or it could be it could be something to do with health, like maybe somebody wants to start eating differently, and they have different goals related to that, and they need to have those specific, but it's going to take, or losing weight. So somebody's not going to lose weight very quickly, right? So that'll be a long-term goal. And then there are short-term goals, and those could be like today, right? Or they could be, for me, I have certain goals. Every day I have to go over to the face-to-face school in the afternoon. So I have every day, I have goals that I need to reach before my e-session. So because I know I'm going to pick up and go to the other school. So I have short-term goals every single day. And then I have different goals for, after school. And then I have goals for each week. Do any of you guys use a planner, either digital or paper? So I'm telling you, this year, 2 schools, I would have been lost without a planner. And I like it paper. Any of you, Sammy, you've got one. Do you like paper, or do you do it digitally? I had stuff in my phone for years. Took me a while to switch over to the phone, but this year I'm switched back to paper just because everything's so complex. So a lot of people find different types of organizers online that they love, and a lot of people have paper. So even my daughter uses paper too. And actually, I ordered our planners for this year at the same time, because even a planner, the way it's set up matters to be able to work efficiently in. Right? You probably find that too, Sammy. I'm real picky about which kind you like. So those are the definitions. So these short-term goals help us to reach the long-term goals, right? So even for me, I want to have meet all my deadlines this year for my eAchieve teaching, right? And I have different professional goals that I have to reach as a teacher, and I have to have short-term goals along the way. As a matter of fact, I have a meeting on Wednesday for my mid-year evaluation with my evaluator. And so I had to do things here, and that helps me reach my long-term goal that I have as a teacher for the year. So professionals always have these. And actually, no matter who you are, if you work on setting these goals, you will just absolutely be a more successful, productive person because of it. Great strategy, Catherine. And do you go by Catherine? Sometimes people have a different name. Just make sure, if I call you a name, if you want to be called something different, Katie, thank you. I know Abby. I know Abigail goes by Abby. Thank you for telling me, Katie. Anybody else? I know Loki. I know Sammy from my last semester. Be sure to speak up. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Okay, so types of goals. And then there are things that we can use that will help us to reach our goals. So, no, it cannot. And so there are things that we can use to help us reach our goals. So there are things like material resources, and you're going to learn about each one of these things. So material are things. So like that planner that we talked about, that's a material resource. Or you see a highlighter here. That can be a resource when you cross things off, right? If you are, those pace charts are material resource. Can you guys think of any more material resources that somebody could use? I'm being really general. If you need to, go ahead and think of a goal you might have, and then maybe think of a material resource there. So like if somebody were trying to lose weight, maybe they would have a nutrition book, right? Maybe they would have that. So I'm going to use this as my example here. Maybe they would, we talk about fad diets in this class. My mom used to buy like every book that came out, and then it was terrible, but she would buy a book. So that would be a material resource. So for me, I would use nutrition. In fact, I picked up with COVID, all that going on, I picked up a a book that had a different approach to nutrition. And I read that in March and I learned a lot. So that would be a material resource. Okay. Or even when I bought different kinds of foods. Okay. Those, oh, don't do that. Yeah. No, your body needs nutrition. We're going to talk about nutrition here. Yeah, and so it's more about what you choose to put in your body rather than, how much. So we're going to go through that in a unit here. I know sometimes when I'm under stress, I tend to do that a little bit too, Abby, but it's not healthy. So, there are different physical things that can happen. So I hope you rethink that. And so then there are human resources. So if I think about the dieting example, like a life coach could be somebody like that, or a dietitian could be a human resource. Or you could have a friend that you are going to, work on a healthy eating plan with. That would be a human resource. Or even if you watch videos, that would be a material and a human together. To just use, is it healthy to just, I will tell you that I was a person too, I was not hungry at breakfast, and I skip breakfast a lot too. They do say that I don't want to get too far off track, but they do say, to have protein. So, like even I'm not a big breakfast person, but I will have like yogurt, or I'll have an egg or a smoothie. And if you have protein, it helps get you through your day, and your body needs it. So protein, if you can just do a protein source of some source, in some fashion, and then drink water. If you're not a breakfast person, that still gets you off of a good start. So I literally will put an egg in a pan, simple, quick, and then I get that into my body, and it actually does help through the day. But I was in the same camp as some of you guys, and so it really is better if you can. But if you eat, if you have anything sweet like a donut or a Pop-Tart or sugar cereal, that's going to make you hungry all day, and it will maybe give you a headache. You won't feel well. So it really is a matter of what. So if I eat an egg, I really don't feel like I've eaten anything, but my body can use it as long-lasting energy. And then the protein part of it, your body has to get complete protein. And I know some people don't eat eggs. Breast most prenatal donation. Yeah. So that's a good thing too. So I'm sure that you have somebody that you talk to about those kinds of things, because I was real similar that way. But it's so important. And again, it's what types of food you take in. Those processed foods and prepared foods are the ones to stay away from. But if you can get yourself to eat something healthful, like an apple, or an orange, or some celery, or, some broccoli, or tuna, or eggs, whole grain, any of those things, it's really good for your body. And I noticed when I really concentrated on getting a variety, even with all I know about nutrition, I really worked at it in March and April when COVID started, and I felt so much better. I had more energy and everything. So I hope you will all take a look at that. And again, it's much later in the semester, but we do talk about nutrition a little bit. So back to this. So then community resources. So community and human resources too can just be friends and people around you. So anybody who's a person, it really is. So material really are like things that you can hold in your hand. Human really are like the people around you. Community would be like organizations. So maybe somebody would use a group, maybe a support group in the community, or maybe they would take a class at the Y that has some healthy food and healthy cooking ideas, or maybe maybe they would have a group with their church, that kind of thing. Those would be community resources. Or schools, that kind of thing. And then natural resources would be things that we get from nature. So all these are really pretty self-explanatory. So like drinking more water, that is a natural resource, and that's really important. Are you guys getting enough water? So about 8 cups a day for most people, and by cup, 8 ounces. So like a literal cup. And that really perks you up, makes you feel good too. So a natural resource would be things like that. Do you? Yeah. And so that is another category. These will be discussed in your textbook, so make sure you look at those. You need to know those for this week. So chapter 4 is your chapter this week. Has everybody logged into your textbook? Everybody successful with that? The link, awesome. The link is on the left there, and then you need those passwords. I will tell you that when I go in there, I oftentimes have to completely close out the window that I'm in and log back in if I switch textbooks. Do you guys have that same issue? It doesn't easily let me switch from one textbook to the other. I don't know if that happens. Okay, same thing. So you guys have all learned that. Awesome. And then there's an article on how to set SMART goals, and you're to use that article to fill out your graphic organizer. So you have a graphic organizer. Now I'm wishing I would have put that in here. It just says SMART, and you're going to summarize. So what does the S stand for? Specific. So your SMART goals summary sheet. If you look back at the article, because SMART goals aren't covered in the textbook the way they need to be for this week. Awesome, Katie. And so S is specific, and this article will give you the information. So go ahead and summarize it on your sheet and every one of those, and that gets turned in this week as your formative. And then you have a quiz that's one of those multiple choice, and on chapter 4. So you need to pass both of those, and then you'll see the summative, which is setting goals, setting SMART goals assessment. So you're going to create 2 long-term SMART goals, and one is going to be academic, meaning school related, and one is going to be personal. So something about you, a personal thing that you want to accomplish. So if you look at this, you could literally copy this. I would copy 1 through 3, all like this. I would drag it, copy, and I would paste that into a Google Doc. Then I would make I would write under 1, my long-term SMART goal related to academics. And then I probably would cross this. I would get rid of this at some point. And now you're going to break it into 2 short-term goals. So one short-term goal that you need to help reach it, and then a second short-term goal. And don't forget, what's that T part that I'm going to be looking for on your each of these goals? Somebody help me. What's that T part? I know you're going to go through these. Yes, time, the time related, timely. So when you set your goal on your long-term goal, I want to see a deadline on there, right? So it should be specific, measurable. It should be action oriented. It should be realistic, and it should be timely. And so you've got to have a deadline on there. I've kicked all kinds of them back last semester. Even though I mentioned during the e-session, people did not have deadlines. So tell me when you want to reach your your short-term goal and your long-term goal, and make sure it's measurable and there's action involved, and make sure it's realistic, and make sure it's specific goal, okay? And then you're going to do list 2 resources. So I'd love it if you could list 2 that are in different categories. So maybe a material and a human resource, for instance, or a community or a natural resource. And then same thing for the personal goal. And then don't neglect to answer number 3. Discuss the benefits to setting and using SMART goals. If you want to, you can Google that, benefit of using SMART goal. And that's another thing I didn't mention. When you submit something, I'm going to know if you copied and pasted from the internet. So if you look something up on the internet, make sure you put it in your own words, okay? So like for a question like this, discuss the benefits of setting and using SMART goals. I just told you you could Google it for some ideas, but I do not want you to copy and paste, even if you cite your source, because that is somebody else's work. So I don't mind if you get an idea from somebody, but please put that in your own words, or go back to that article. The article also gives you some good information, Okay, so that should help you be successful on this, and I hope you use those goals. Make some. I can always tell when people really think through, and there are goals that they actually can work toward, and that's my favorite. All right, any questions on anything, you guys? Anybody come up with a goal as we're talking through this week? Anybody want to share out a goal? Or did I just get your gears turning? You need to go through the chapter and the article. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for being here this week. Email me if you have any questions. I love you being at e-sessions. You make my day. I recognize each of your names when you're here every week, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye, you guys. Have a great week. Thank you so much. You too, Sammy. Thank you all.